Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Mask of Mediocrity. Leo Jensen adjusted his security uniform and checked his watch. Another 12-hour shift at the gates of Riverside Industrial Complex. To anyone watching, he was just another middle-aged man grinding through life, invisible and unremarkable. The other guard called him Old Leo, the guy who kept to himself and never caused trouble. But Leo Jensen was far from ordinary. 23 years ago, he'd been Captain Leo Jensen of the Army's most classified Special Operations Unit. His unit didn't exist on paper, and their missions were buried so deep that even military historians would never find them. When the government needed someone eliminated without a trace, when they needed intelligence extracted from impossible situations, when they needed a ghost who could walk through enemy territory and emerge without a fingerprint left behind, they called Leo's team. The transition to civilian life had been Leo's choice, or so he'd told himself. After Monica Browning had gotten pregnant with Emma, he'd requested reassignment to a desk job, then eventually separation. He wanted to be a father, a husband. He wanted normal. Monica had been a nurse at the military hospital where Leo had been treated after a mission in Eastern Europe went sideways. She was beautiful, caring, and everything he thought he wanted after years of violence and shadows. They'd married quickly, and Emma had arrived 8 months later. For 22 years, Leo had played the role perfectly. The devoted husband who worked security jobs to support his family. The father who attended every school play and soccer game. The man who bit his tongue when Monica made cutting remarks about his lack of ambition in front of her friends. He'd watched his daughter grow into a reflection of her mother, beautiful, entitled, and increasingly contemptuous of the man who'd sacrificed everything for them. Emma had joined the military herself, but as an officer through college ROTC, not through the enlisted ranks like her father had originally. She made sure everyone knew the difference. Leo's phone buzzed. A text from Monica. Emma's engagement party is next week. Try to look presentable for once. Gordon will be there. Gordon Martinez, Monica's friend from the hospital where she now worked as head of nursing. Leo had known about Gordon for 8 months now. Had known about the afternoon meetings at the Riverside Motel. Had known about the late-night phone calls Monica thought he couldn't hear. Had known about the way Gordon looked at his wife like she was already his. But Leo had also known things that Monica and Gordon couldn't imagine. He'd known that patience was a weapon. He'd known that the best revenge was served when the target had the most to lose. He'd known that sometimes you had to let people think they were winning before you destroyed them completely. As Leo settled into his security booth, he opened his laptop and began typing an encrypted message to a contact he hadn't spoken to in 15 years. The message was simple. The shepherd needs his flock. Are you available for consultation? The response came back within an hour. Always ready for the shepherd. What's the target? Leo smiled for the first time in months. The shepherd, that had been his call sign during the Black Ops days. His team had been scattered across the world after their unit was officially disbanded. But the bonds forged in blood and classified missions never truly broke. 2 sheep who need to learn about wolves, he typed back. His phone rang. Monica, Leo, don't forget Emma's dress fitting is tomorrow. And please, for once in your life, try not to embarrass us. Gordon is bringing his son. He's a doctor, you know. Unlike some people who peaked in high school. I'll be there, Leo said quietly. And Leo? Emma specifically asked that you not wear that cheap suit. Maybe just this once you can make an effort? The line went dead. Leo looked at his reflection in the dark window of the security booth. Tomorrow would begin the final act of a marriage that had been over for years. And Emma's wedding would be the perfect stage for the curtain to fall. He pulled up another encrypted channel on his laptop and began typing a different kind of message. This one went to a contact in the intelligence community who owed Leo several life debts. Need a background check on Gordon Martinez, age 47, head of cardiology at Riverside General. Also need surveillance assets, 3-person team minimum. Budget is no object. Some masks were worn to hide weakness. Others were worn to hide predators. After 22 years of being underestimated, Leo Jensen was ready to show his family what they'd been living with all along. Chapter 2. The Perfect Facade. The dress fitting took place at Riverside's most expensive bridal boutique. Leo arrived exactly on time, as he always did, wearing the same blue suit he'd worn to every family function for the past 5 years. He watched through the window as Monica and Emma fussed over silk and lace, their laughter carrying through the glass. Gordon Martinez was already inside, holding court like he owned the place. He was handsome in that practiced way that successful men cultivated, silver at his temples, expensive clothes that fit perfectly, and a kind of confident smile that said he'd never been denied anything he wanted. "Dad," Emma called out as Leo entered. "Come look at this dress. Though I suppose you wouldn't understand the difference between silk and polyester." The boutique staff laughed politely. Gordon chuckled and put his arm around Monica's waist, a gesture that Leo noted was becoming increasingly bold in public. "Actually," Leo said quietly, "I can tell the difference. That's charmeuse silk, probably about 19 mom weight." "Nice choice." Emma blinked in surprise. Monica looked annoyed that Leo had said something informed instead of embarrassing. "How do you—" Emma began. "I pay attention," Leo said simply. Gordon stepped forward, extending his hand. "Gordon Martinez. I don't think we've been properly introduced." Leo shook the man's hand, noting the soft skin of someone who'd never done physical labor, the expensive watch, the way Gordon's eyes never quite met his directly. In Leo's previous life, those were tells that marked someone as either a coward or a predator. Sometimes both. "Leo Jensen, I've heard a lot about you." "All good things, I hope," Gordon said with that practiced smile. "I'm sure they were," Leo replied, which could have meant anything at all. Monica appeared beside them, resplendent in a designer dress that cost more than Leo's monthly salary. "Gordon, you remember how I told you Leo works security? He's a gate guard at the industrial complex." There was that tone again, the one that made sure everyone understood that her husband was beneath them all. Leo had heard it so many times he'd stopped feeling the sting, but he'd never stopped cataloging each instance. "Security work is important," Gordon said with the kind of condescension reserved for children and the mentally impaired. "Someone has to watch the gates, right?" "Someone does," Leo agreed. Emma emerged from the dressing room in her wedding gown, and for a moment, Leo forgot about everything else. She was beautiful, radiant in the way brides were supposed to be. For just an instant, she looked like the little girl who used to fall asleep on his chest while he read her bedtime stories. "Oh, sweetheart," Monica breathed. "You look perfect." "Major Henry is going to lose his mind when he sees you," Gordon added. Emma beamed. "David's picking up his dress uniform today. Can you believe it? I'm going to be a major's wife." "Much better than being married to enlisted," Monica said, shooting a look at Leo. "Officers are a different class of people." Leo said nothing. He'd known plenty of officers during his military career. Some have been excellent leaders. Others have been incompetent cowards who'd hidden behind their rank while better men died following their orders. Rank meant nothing when bullets started flying. But Major David Henry wasn't one of the cowards. Leo had done his research after Emma announced the engagement. Henry had served 2 tours in Afghanistan, had been decorated for valor, and by all accounts was a good man and a good soldier. Leo actually respected his future son-in-law, which made what was coming all the more complicated. "Dad, you're being awfully quiet," Emma said. "Don't you think I look beautiful?" "You look beautiful," Leo said truthfully. "You always do." Something flickered across Emma's face, maybe surprise at the sincerity in his voice. But it was gone quickly, replaced by her usual dismissive expression. "Well, try to remember that when you're standing at the altar," she said. "I don't want you crying or making a scene. This is supposed to be elegant." "I'll remember," Leo said. The boutique owner approached with a tablet, showing Emma pictures of hairstyles. As the women crowded around the screen, Gordon sidled closer to Leo. "You know," Gordon said quietly, "Monica's mentioned that money's been tight for you guys. If you need help with the wedding expenses—" "We're fine," Leo said. "I just want Monica to be happy, you understand? She deserves the best." Leo turned to look at Gordon directly for the first time. "Yes, she does." There was something in Leo's tone that made Gordon take a small step back. For just a second, the cardiologist saw something in the gate guard's eyes that didn't fit the narrative he'd constructed, something that looked almost dangerous. But then Leo looked away, and Gordon convinced himself he'd imagined it. As the afternoon wore on, Leo listened to his family plan a wedding he would pay for, but not be welcomed at. He listened to Gordon offer opinions about flowers and venues, as if he had every right to be involved. He listened to Emma talk about her future while dismissing her past. And he continued to plan. That evening, Leo sat in his car outside the motel, where Monica met Gordon every Tuesday and Thursday. He didn't need to see them together. He had enough evidence to destroy both their careers and reputations. But tonight wasn't about gathering intelligence. Tonight was about understanding his targets completely. Through the window of room 237, he watched his wife of 22 years betray her vows with practiced ease. He watched Gordon treat Monica like a conquest rather than a person. He watched two people who thought they were clever manipulating someone they considered too stupid to notice. They had no idea they were being watched by someone who'd spent years learning to kill without leaving evidence. Leo's phone vibrated. A text from his intelligence contact. Martinez clean on surface. Digging deeper. Surveillance team in position tomorrow. Another text from a different contact. Shepard. Heard you were active again. Need a nest. A nest. Safe house. Untraceable location. The kind of place where people could be taken for quiet conversations away from prying eyes. Not yet, Leo texted back. But soon. As Monica and Gordon finished their business inside the motel room, Leo started his car and drove home. He had a wedding to plan for, and everything had to be perfect. After all, you only got one chance to reveal who you really were. Chapter 3. The Wedding Day Revelation. The wedding took place at Riverside's most prestigious country club on a perfect October afternoon. Leo had paid for everything. The flowers, the catering, the band, the photographer, while listening to Monica and Emma complain about his cheap choices every step of the way. He stood at the altar in his rented tuxedo, watching Emma walk down the aisle on Gordon's arm. Monica had insisted that Gordon give her away, since he's more of a father figure anyway. Leo had agreed without argument, which had surprised everyone. Major David Henry looked magnificent in his dress blues. The young man had tried to talk to Leo several times during the engagement, but Emma and Monica had always interrupted, steering the conversation away from the embarrassing father of the bride. The ceremony proceeded flawlessly. Emma and David exchanged vows that spoke of honor, fidelity, and lifelong commitment. Leo listened to every word, thinking about the irony of his daughter pledging faithfulness while her mother's lover stood where her actual father should have been. During the reception, Leo watched his family celebrate without him. He sat at a table in the back with Monica's elderly relatives, the ones who weren't important enough to sit closer to the head table. Monica held court at the main table with Gordon beside her, both of them glowing with the satisfaction of people who thought they'd gotten away with something. Emma danced with her new husband, then with Gordon, then with a stream of young officers who all looked at Leo with polite dismissal when introductions were made. To them, he was just the gate guard who'd somehow produced this beautiful, accomplished woman. Ladies and gentlemen, the DJ announced, it's time for our traditional father-daughter dance. However, I'm told we'll be doing something a little different tonight. The bride has asked her mentor and family friend, Dr. Gordon Martinez, to have this honor instead. The crowd applauded as Gordon led Emma to the dance floor. Leo remained seated, watching his daughter smile up at the man who was sleeping with her mother. Monica beamed from the head table, recording everything with her phone. After the dance, Emma took the microphone for her speech. I want to thank everyone for being here today, she began, radiant in her designer gown. Dave and I are so grateful for all your love and support. I especially want to thank my mother, who taught me that a woman should never settle for less than she deserves. Applause. Monica dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. And I want to thank Gordon Martinez, who's been like a real father to me. He's shown me what a successful man looks like, what a woman should expect from a partner. More applause. Gordon stood and bowed slightly, playing the humble hero. Emma paused, her gaze finding Leo in the back of the room. My biological father is here too, of course. He's just a gate guard. But I suppose everyone has to come from somewhere, right? The room erupted in laughter. Some guests turned to look at Leo with amused pity. Monica smiled and whispered something to Gordon, who chuckled and shook his head. I mean, who would want him? Emma continued, drunk on attention and champagne. He's never accomplished anything. Never been anywhere. Never been anyone important. The laughter grew louder. Leo sat perfectly still, his hands folded in his lap. Let's be honest, Monica called out from the head table, her own voice carrying clearly in the momentary quiet. He's the shame of this family. The room went completely silent for a moment, then exploded in shocked laughter and gasps. Some guests looked uncomfortable with how far the mockery had gone, but most seemed to think it was all in good fun. Major David Henry stood up abruptly, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. That's enough, he said firmly. But Emma was on a roll, feeding off the crowd's energy. Oh, David, it's fine. Everyone knows the truth. My father is nobody special. Actually, Major Henry interrupted, his voice cutting through the laughter like a blade. He's the most decorated soldier I've ever met. The room went quiet again, but this time the silence felt different. Heavier. Emma blinked in confusion. What are you talking about? Major Henry looked directly at Leo, and for the first time all evening, Leo looked back. There was recognition in the young officer's eyes, the kind that passed between warriors who'd walked similar paths. Your father, David said slowly, is Captain Leo Jensen, former commander of Task Force Reaper, Congressional Medal of Honor, Silver Star with 3 clusters, Purple Heart with 2 clusters, citation for extraordinary heroism. The man sitting in the back of this room has killed more enemies of this country than everyone in this room combined. The silence was deafening now. Emma's face had gone pale. Monica looked like she'd been slapped. That's impossible, Gordon said, his voice cracking slightly. He's just a security guard. Task Force Reaper was classified above my clearance level until last month, David continued, his voice growing stronger. I only found out because I was reviewing personnel files for my new assignment. Do you know what Task Force Reaper did? Nobody answered. They were ghosts, deep insertion specialists, the men who went places that didn't exist to eliminate threats that were never supposed to be there. They saved more American lives than anyone will ever know, and they did it without any recognition or glory. David's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the room. Your father, Emma, is a legitimate American hero, and you just humiliated him in front of everyone who matters to you. Emma's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. Monica's face had gone white. Gordon looked like he was going to be sick. Leo stood up slowly from his table in the back. Every eye in the room was on him now, but the expression on his face was completely different from what it had been all evening. The mask of the harmless gate guard was gone. In its place was something that made several of the other military officers in the room instinctively straighten their postures. Emma, Leo said quietly, his voice carrying clearly in the silence. Monica, his wife and daughter, both looked at him with expressions of dawning horror. You're right about one thing, Leo continued. I'm nobody special. I'm just a man who spent the last 22 years watching his family grow to hate him for being exactly what they asked him to be. He started walking toward the head table, and people moved out of his way without conscious thought. But you're wrong about something else, he said. You think I don't know about you and Gordon, Monica? You think I don't know about the motel, the lies, the way you've been planning to leave me once Emma was settled? Monica gasped. Gordon had gone completely pale. You think I'm weak, Leo continued, his voice never rising above conversational level. You think I'm stupid. You think I'm harmless. He stopped directly in front of the head table, looking at his wife and daughter with eyes that several combat veterans in the room recognized all too well. You have no idea what I am, Leo said, but you're about to find out. Emma fainted. Monica grabbed Gordon's arm like she was drowning. Major David Henry stood at attention and saluted the man he now knew had taught him everything about being a soldier without ever saying a word. And Leo Jensen, the real Leo Jensen, smiled for the first time in 22 years. Chapter 4. The Reckoning Begins. The wedding reception collapsed like a house of cards after Emma fainted. Half the guests fled immediately, unable to process the sudden shift from cruel mockery to the revelation that they'd just witnessed a war hero being humiliated by his own family. The other half lingered, drawn by the kind of morbid fascination that attends car crashes and public executions. Leo knelt beside his unconscious daughter, checking her pulse with the efficient movements of someone trained in battlefield medicine. She was fine, just shock and too much champagne. But when Emma's eyes fluttered open and she saw her father's face inches from hers, she screamed. "Get away from me!" she shrieked, scrambling backward. "You're scaring me." Leo stood slowly, and for the first time in years, he didn't try to make himself smaller or less threatening. The man who emerged from behind the gate guard's facade was someone who'd learned to command through presence rather than volume. "David," Leo said quietly, his eyes never leaving Emma's face. "Take your wife home. This conversation is between adults." Major Henry hesitated, torn between protecting his new bride and following the orders of a superior officer. The military hierarchy was deeply ingrained in him, and everything about Leo's bearing screamed command authority. "Sir, with respect, Emma is my wife now. My responsibility." Leo nodded approvingly. "Good answer." But Emma made her choice tonight. She chose to publicly humiliate the man who paid for this wedding, who walked away from a career most men would kill for, who spent 22 years pretending to be less than he was because his family was ashamed of what he actually was. Emma struggled to her feet, supported by David. "You lied to us. You made us think you were nobody." "I never lied about anything," Leo replied. "I just stopped correcting your assumptions. When you called me a failure, I didn't argue. When you said I was worthless, I didn't defend myself. When you treated me like I was beneath you, I let you." "Why?" Monica whispered, speaking for the first time since the revelation. Leo turned to look at his wife of 22 years. "Because I loved you, both of you, and I thought that if I could just be what you wanted me to be, you might love me back." The pain in his voice was genuine, and for a moment Monica looked like she might cry. Then Gordon stepped protectively beside her, and Leo's expression hardened again. "But you can't love someone you don't respect," Leo continued. "And you can't respect someone you think is weak. So I became weak for you. I became ordinary for you. I became someone you could dismiss and ignore and eventually betray." "Leo," Monica began. "Don't." The single word cut through her attempt at explanation like a blade. "Don't insult me by pretending this is news to you. I've known about Gordon for 8 months. I've known about the motel, the lies, the plans you've been making for after Emma's wedding." Gordon finally found his voice. "Now, wait a minute." Leo looked at him, and whatever Gordon saw in that gaze made him step backward. "Dr. Martinez, we need to talk." "I don't think that's necessary," Gordon said, his voice higher than normal. "I wasn't asking." The words were spoken quietly, but there was something in Leo's tone that made it clear this wasn't a request. Several of the remaining guests had phones out, recording everything. Social media would be buzzing within the hour. "This is my daughter's wedding," Monica said desperately. "Can't we discuss this privately?" "Your daughter's wedding ended when she decided to humiliate her father for the entertainment of strangers," Leo replied. "What happens now is something else entirely." Emma was crying now, clinging to David's arm. "I didn't know. How was I supposed to know?" "You weren't supposed to know what I'd done," Leo said. "You were supposed to know who I was. But you never bothered to find out, did you? Neither of you ever asked me about my past, my dreams, my experiences. You just decided I was boring and worthless and left it at that." The truth of it hit Emma like a physical blow. She realized that she couldn't remember a single conversation with her father about his life before she was born. She'd never asked because she'd never thought there was anything worth knowing. "I want to go home," she whispered. "This is your home now," Leo said, gesturing to David. "With your husband. The man who actually honored you tonight by defending your father when your own family wouldn't." David straightened. "Sir, I'd like to speak with you privately when this is over. There are questions I have." "I like that," Leo said. "You're a good man, David. Take care of my daughter. She's going to need you in the days ahead." "What's that supposed to mean?" Emma demanded. Leo didn't answer. Instead, he turned to address the remaining wedding guests, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption to what should have been a celebration. Those of you who wish to leave should do so now. Those of you who stay will witness something that 22 years of patience has been building toward. Most of the guests fled. Only a handful remained. A few military officers who recognized the steel in Leo's voice, some family members too stunned to move, and Monica's nursing colleagues who'd come to see the loser husband finally get his comeuppance. They were about to see something very different. Leo walked to the bar and poured himself a whiskey. He'd been sober for the entire wedding, playing the responsible father figure while his family mocked him. But that performance was over. "Gordon," he said without turning around, "you and I are going to have a conversation. Monica, you can join us or you can leave. But if you leave now, you don't come back." "You can't threaten me," Monica said, but her voice shook. Leo turned around, and the man facing her was someone she'd never seen before. Not the submissive husband who'd tolerated her contempt for years. Not the quiet father who'd accepted his daughter's dismissal. This was the man who'd earned a Congressional Medal of Honor in places that didn't officially exist. "I'm not threatening you," Leo said calmly. "I'm giving you a choice. The last choice you'll get to make about how this ends." Monica looked at Gordon, who was pale and sweating despite the air conditioning. She looked at Emma, who was crying into David's shoulder. She looked at the remaining guests, who were watching her like she was a specimen under a microscope. And then she looked at her husband, really looked at him for the first time in years, and saw something that made her blood run cold. Leo Jensen was done pretending to be harmless. Chapter 5. The Trap Springs. Monica chose to stay, but not out of loyalty or love. She stayed because something in Leo's voice told her that running would only make things worse. Gordon, however, had no such insight. "I don't have to listen to this," Gordon declared, pulling out his phone. "Monica, we're leaving. This man is clearly unstable." "Put the phone down, Gordon," Leo said without raising his voice. "I'm calling security," Gordon announced, dialing. "And then I'm calling the police. This is harassment, and I won't." The phone went dead in Gordon's hand. Not powered off, completely dead, as if the battery had been instantly drained. Gordon stared at it in confusion, then looked up to see Leo holding a small electronic device. "Signal jammer," Leo explained calmly. "Military grade. Nothing electronic works within a 50-foot radius. No phones, no cameras, no recording devices." Several guests pulled out their phones and discovered the same thing, completely dead. The comfortable assumption that this was just a domestic dispute that they could video and share online evaporated. They were trapped in whatever was about to happen. "That's illegal," Gordon sputtered. "Yes, it is," Leo agreed. "So is adultery in a military community. So is alienation of affection. So is deliberately destroying someone's reputation with false statements." He walked closer to Gordon, who backed up until he hit the wall. "But we're not talking about legality anymore, are we? We're talking about consequences." "Leo, please," Monica said desperately. "Let's just go home and talk about this privately." "We had 22 years to talk privately," Leo replied. "You chose to spend that time with Gordon instead. So now we'll talk publicly." He gestured to the few remaining guests, Emma and David, 3 other military officers, 2 of Monica's nursing colleagues, and the wedding photographer who'd been too stunned to leave. "Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to witness the end of a marriage that should have ended years ago. Monica, would you like to tell everyone when your affair with Gordon started, or should I?" Monica's face went white. We never." 8 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days ago," Leo said matter-of-factly. "Tuesday afternoon at the Riverside Motel. Room 237. You told me you were working a double shift." The precision of his knowledge hit Monica like a slap. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because I followed you, Monica. Because I watched you. Because I documented everything." Leo reached into his jacket and pulled out a tablet. With a few swipes, he projected images onto the wall using a small device that had been hidden in the floral arrangements. The photos were damning. Monica and Gordon entering the motel together, kissing in the parking lot, emerging disheveled hours later. The timestamps showed dozens of meetings over the past 8 months. Emma gasped. "Mom, how could you?" "It's not what it looks like," Monica said desperately. "Really?" Leo said. "Then perhaps Gordon would like to explain what it does look like." Gordon was sweating profusely now. "This is a violation of privacy." "You can't." "I can," Leo said simply. "Because unlike you, I actually understand the law. Private investigator's license, issued under my real name and security clearance. Everything I've done is completely legal." "You're a private investigator?" Emma asked in disbelief. "Among other things," Leo replied. "What did you think I did for 20 years before I became a worthless gate guard?" The pieces were starting to fall into place for Emma. Her father hadn't just been a soldier. He'd been someone who knew how to gather intelligence, how to plan operations, how to eliminate targets. And she was beginning to realize that she and her mother had just been classified as targets. "Gordon," Leo continued, advancing on the terrified cardiologist, "would you like to tell Monica about your wife?" The blood drained from Gordon's face completely. "What wife?" "The wife you're still married to. The wife who lives in Tampa with your 2 children. The wife who thinks you're at a medical conference this weekend." Monica staggered backward like she'd been hit. "What?" "Dr. Gordon Martinez," Leo announced to the room, "is a bigamist. Has been for 3 years. His legal wife, Julia Martinez, filed a missing person report last month when Gordon disappeared for a week. Turns out he was here in Riverside, setting up his new identity." "That's impossible," Monica whispered. Leo swiped the tablet again, and new images appeared on the wall. Gordon's real wedding photos. His wife and children. Public records showing his marriage license, their joint bank accounts, their shared mortgage. "Surprise, Monica. The man you've been planning to leave me for is already married to someone else. Congratulations, you're the other woman twice over." Gordon made a desperate lunge for the exit, but found his way blocked by Major Henry, who had moved to the door with military precision. "I don't think you're leaving just yet," David said coldly. "This is kidnapping." Gordon shouted. "No," Leo said calmly. "This is a private gathering where everyone is free to leave at any time. But if you try to leave, Gordon, I'll have to make some phone calls. One to your wife in Tampa. One to the medical board about your falsified credentials. One to the FBI about the identity fraud. One to the IRS about the 2 sets of tax returns you've been filing." Gordon sank into a chair, defeated. "Ow! How did I find out?" Leo smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Gordon, I spent 20 years finding people who didn't want to be found and eliminating threats to national security. Did you really think I couldn't figure out one small-time con artist with delusions of grandeur?" Emma was staring at her mother with horror. "You were going to leave Dad for this man? For a criminal?" "I didn't know," Monica cried. "No," Leo said sadly. "You didn't know because you never bothered to find out. Just like you never bothered to find out who I really was. You saw what you wanted to see and made decisions based on fantasies." He turned to address the room again. "Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the educational portion of our evening. What happens next is more personal." The signal jammer went silent, and phones began working again. The guests who remained were free to leave, and most did, quickly and quietly, understanding that they'd witnessed something far beyond a simple domestic dispute. Only Emma, David, Monica, and Gordon remained. "Now," Leo said, pouring himself another whiskey, "let's discuss the future." Chapter 6. The Price of Betrayal. With the other guests gone, the country club's grand ballroom felt cavernous and cold. The wedding decorations that had seemed elegant hours earlier now looked like the remnants of a battlefield, which, Leo reflected, was exactly what they were. Emma sat in stunned silence beside David, still wearing her wedding dress, but looking like she'd aged years in the past hour. Monica huddled in a chair across from Gordon, who was slumped in defeat with his head in his hands. "The way I see it," Leo began, walking slowly around the table like a predator circling wounded prey, "we have several problems to solve tonight." He stopped behind Gordon's chair. "First, we have a bigamist who's committed multiple felonies in the pursuit of seducing another man's wife." Gordon flinched but didn't look up. "Second, we have a woman who spent 22 years of marriage building her exit strategy while destroying her husband's relationship with his daughter." Monica's face crumpled. Leo, I never meant. And third, Leo continued, moving to stand behind Emma's chair. We have a daughter who just discovered that everything she thought she knew about her family was a lie. David spoke for the first time since the revelation. Sir, with respect, Emma was raised with the information she had. She couldn't have known what she wasn't told. Leo nodded approvingly. Spoken like a true officer. Protect your people, even when they're wrong. I respect that, David. He returned to the center of the room. But the question remains, what do we do now? Do we all pretend this never happened? Do we go back to our comfortable lies and wait for the next betrayal? What do you want, Leo? Monica asked quietly. What do I want? Leo laughed, but there was no humor in it. 22 years ago, I wanted a family. I wanted someone to come home to who would be proud of what I'd accomplished instead of ashamed of what I'd sacrificed. I wanted a daughter who would know that her father was a man worth respecting. He pulled out his phone, no longer jammed, and scrolled through a series of text messages. But what I want now is justice. What kind of justice? Gordon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Leo smiled, and it was the most frightening expression anyone in the room had ever seen. The kind that fits the crime. He read from his phone. Message from Julia Martinez, Gordon's actual wife. She's been tracking you through credit card receipts. She knows about the fake medical conference. She knows about the Riverside Motel. And she's driving here tonight with her divorce attorney and a very angry FBI agent who happens to be her brother. Gordon's head snapped up. That's impossible. How would she know? Because I told her, Leo said simply. About an hour ago, right after I sent copies of all your financial records to the medical board and the IRS. You bastard, Gordon snarled, jumping to his feet. The change in Leo was instantaneous. The mild-mannered gate guard vanished completely, replaced by something that made Gordon freeze mid-step. Leo didn't move, didn't raise his voice, didn't make any threatening gesture. But suddenly the air in the room felt dangerous. Sit down, Leo said quietly. Gordon sat. Monica, Leo continued, his voice returning to conversational tones. I've also taken the liberty of informing your nursing supervisor about your extended lunch breaks and suspicious scheduling patterns. Apparently, having an affair on hospital time is grounds for dismissal. Monica gasped. You didn't. My career. Your career is the least of your problems, Leo interrupted. I've also filed for divorce. Papers were served to your sister this afternoon, along with copies of all the evidence. The story will be all over Riverside by tomorrow morning. Dad, Emma said shakily, this is going too far. Leo turned to look at his daughter, and for a moment his expression softened. Is it Emma? Is destroying the people who betrayed me going too far? Tell me, what would be appropriate justice for 22 years of humiliation? Emma had no answer. Here's what's going to happen, Leo announced. Gordon, you're going to walk out that door and drive straight to the police station, where you're going to confess to bigamy, identity fraud, and tax evasion. If you cooperate fully, I'll make sure Julia knows you came clean voluntarily. And if I don't, Gordon asked, then the FBI will arrest you at the airport when you try to run, Leo said matter-of-factly. I've already flagged your passport. There's nowhere you can go that I can't find you. Gordon stared at him in horror. Who are you? I'm the man whose life you tried to steal, Leo replied. The man whose wife you seduced with lies and false promises. The man whose family you helped destroy. He turned to Monica. You have a choice. You can contest the divorce and spend the next 2 years having every detail of your affair broadcast in court proceedings, or you can sign the papers quietly and disappear with whatever dignity you have left. Where am I supposed to go? Monica whispered. Anywhere but here, Leo said coldly. You burned this bridge tonight, Monica. There's no going back. Emma finally found her voice. And what about me? What about your daughter? Leo's expression grew infinitely sad. What about you, Emma? You made it clear tonight that you're ashamed of me, that you think I'm worthless, that you wish Gordon was your father instead of me. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, Leo interrupted gently. And that's your right. You're an adult, a married woman, an officer in the United States Army. You don't need a father you're embarrassed by. Tears streamed down Emma's face. I'm sorry. I didn't know. If I had known. If you had known what? That I was worth respecting? That I had accomplished things? That I had sacrificed everything I was for your happiness? Leo shook his head. Emma, I didn't need you to know what I'd done. I needed you to love me for who I was. And you couldn't do that. David stood up suddenly. Sir, with all due respect, Emma is my wife now. Whatever happens between you and her mother, she shouldn't be punished for mistakes she made based on incomplete information. Leo studied the young officer for a long moment. What are you suggesting, Major? I'm suggesting that Emma deserves a chance to know her real father, to build a relationship based on truth instead of assumptions. And if she doesn't want that chance, David looked at Emma, who was crying silently. Then that's her loss. But she should have the opportunity to choose. Leo nodded slowly. Very well. Emma, you have a choice. You can come with Monica and Gordon into whatever exile they've chosen for themselves. Or you can stay and learn who your father really is. Emma looked at her mother, then at Gordon, then at her new husband. Finally, she looked at Leo with eyes that saw him clearly for the first time in years. I choose you, she whispered. I choose my real father. For the first time all evening, Leo's smile was genuine. Then we'll start over. All of us. But first, he turned back to Gordon and Monica. You have 10 minutes to leave this building before Julia Martinez arrives with the FBI. I suggest you use that time wisely. As Gordon and Monica fled into the night, Leo looked around the ruined wedding reception and felt something he hadn't experienced in 22 years. Peace. Chapter 7. The Hunter Emerges. 3 days after the wedding disaster, Leo sat in his security booth at the industrial complex, but he wasn't watching the gates. He was monitoring multiple computer screens showing surveillance feeds from across Riverside. His simple gate guard persona had been the perfect cover for activities that required anonymity and access to overlooked locations. His phone buzzed. A text from David. Sir, we need to talk. Something's wrong with Emma. Leo had been expecting this call. The psychological aftermath of having your entire worldview shattered didn't resolve itself in 3 days. He'd seen it in soldiers who discovered their commanders had been lying to them, in civilians who learned their governments had betrayed them. Where? Leo texted back. Our apartment. Emma won't leave the bedroom. Leo closed down his monitors and locked the security booth. His replacement wouldn't arrive for 6 hours, but that was someone else's problem now. He'd already submitted his resignation, effective immediately. 20 minutes later, Leo stood outside David and Emma's apartment. When David opened the door, Leo was struck by how much the young officer had aged in just 3 days. The confident soldier who'd stood up at the wedding reception looked exhausted and defeated. She won't eat, David said without preamble. Won't talk. Just stares at the wall and cries. I don't know how to help her. Leo nodded. Post-traumatic stress. She's processing the collapse of everything she thought was real. Where is she? Bedroom. She won't see anyone. I've tried calling in sick for her, but she's supposed to report to her new assignment next week. Leo walked through the apartment, noting the wedding gifts still in boxes, the flowers already wilting. It looked like a life interrupted, which was exactly what it was. He knocked on the bedroom door. Emma, it's your father. Go away, came the muffled reply. I'm coming in. Leo opened the door to find Emma curled up on the bed in pajamas, surrounded by tissues, and looking like she hadn't slept since the wedding. She looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. I ruined everything, she whispered. Leo sat on the edge of the bed, and for the first time in years, Emma didn't flinch away from him. No, you didn't. You made mistakes based on information you were given by people you trusted. I humiliated you in front of everyone. I called you worthless. I said nobody would want you. Yes, you did. Emma flinched at his blunt confirmation. How can you forgive me? Because you're my daughter, Leo said simply. And because I understand how it happened. Your mother spent 22 years teaching you that I was a failure, that I was something to be ashamed of. You believed what you were told by the person who was supposed to protect you. But I should have known better. I should have asked. I should have. Should have what? Interrogated your own mother about whether she was lying to you about your father. Leo shook his head. Emma, you were a child when this started. Children believe what their parents tell them. And then you became an adult, and the patterns were already set. Emma sat up slowly. Tell me about Task Force Reaper. Leo was quiet for a long moment. Most of it is still classified. What I can tell you is that we went places where American soldiers weren't supposed to be and did things that never officially happened. Did you kill people? Yes. A lot of people. Enough. Emma studied her father's face. Do you regret it? I regret the necessity of it, Leo said carefully. But no, I don't regret protecting my country and my fellow soldiers. I don't regret stopping people who would have killed innocent Americans if they'd been allowed to succeed. Why did you leave? Why didn't you stay in the military? Leo smiled sadly. Because your mother was pregnant, and I wanted to be a father more than I wanted to be a soldier. I thought I could have both, but the military doesn't work that way. Not for special operations. So you gave it all up. For us. For the family I thought we could be. Emma was crying again, but this time it wasn't from self-pity. I wasted it. I wasted your sacrifice. I threw it away because I was ashamed of you. No, Leo said firmly. You didn't waste anything. You became an officer. You married a good man. You built a life. The fact that you didn't appreciate where you came from doesn't diminish what you accomplished. But I hurt you. For years, I hurt you. Leo reached out and took his daughter's hand. Emma, do you want to know the truth? It did hurt. Every dismissive comment, every eye roll, every time you acted embarrassed to be my daughter, it cut deep. But it never made me stop loving you. Ow! Because love isn't conditional on being appreciated. Love is choosing to care about someone even when they don't care about you back. Emma squeezed his hand. I want to know you. The real you. I want to understand who my father actually is. That's going to take time, and it's going to be difficult. The man I really am isn't the gentle, harmless person you grew up with. I'm harder than that. More dangerous than that. Show me, Emma said. Leo studied her face. Are you sure? Once you see who I really am, you can't unsee it. I'm sure. Leo stood up. Get dressed. Combat fatigues if you have them. We're going to the range. An hour later, Leo and Emma stood at a private shooting range 30 miles outside Riverside. Leo had changed out of his security uniform and into black tactical gear that made him look like a completely different person. Emma watched in amazement as her father assembled a sniper rifle with the fluid efficiency of someone who'd done it thousands of times. His hands moved without conscious thought, muscle memory guiding each motion. Remington 700, Leo said as he worked. Modified for long-range precision. Not military issue, but close enough. How far can you shoot with that? Accurately? About 1,000 yards in good conditions. Emma swallowed hard. Have you ever with people? Yes. Leo finished assembling the rifle and handed Emma a smaller weapon, a standard military sidearm. Let's see what you remember from officer training. For the next 2 hours, Leo put Emma through shooting drills that pushed her skills far beyond anything she'd learned in the military. He moved like liquid violence, transitioning between positions and weapons with deadly grace. Again, he said after Emma missed a difficult shot. Feel the trigger brake. Don't jerk it, caress it. Emma tried again and hit the target dead center. Better. Again. By the end of the session, Emma was shooting at a level that would have impressed her military instructors. But more importantly, she was beginning to understand what her father was. This is what you did? She asked as they packed up the weapons. You were a sniper? Among other things. Sniper, infiltration specialist, close quarters combat expert, intelligence operative. I was trained to be a complete weapon. Emma looked at her father with new eyes. And you gave all this up to work security jobs? I gave it up to be your father, Leo corrected. But Emma, you need to understand something. I never stopped being what I was trained to be. I just put that part of myself away. Until now. Until now. As they drove back toward town, Emma was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. What happened to Mom and Gordon? Gordon turned himself in to the FBI yesterday. He's looking at federal charges for bigamy and fraud. His real wife filed for divorce and is seeking full custody of their children. And Mom, Monica moved in with her sister in Phoenix. She signed the divorce papers without contesting them. Emma nodded. Do you think there's any chance you might forgive her someday? Leo was quiet for a moment. Emma, your mother didn't just betray our marriage. She spent 22 years systematically destroying my relationship with you. She taught you to be ashamed of me, to see me as worthless, to wish I was someone else. But if she apologized, Some things can't be apologized away, Leo said firmly. Some betrayals cut too deep. Some damage is permanent. Emma absorbed this. And me? Can you forgive me? Leo reached over and squeezed her hand. You don't need my forgiveness, Emma. You need to forgive yourself. And then you need to decide who you want to be moving forward. I want to be your daughter, Emma said quietly. Your real daughter, not the version Mom created. Then that's who you'll be. As they pulled into David and Emma's apartment complex, Leo's phone rang. The caller ID showed a number he hadn't seen in 15 years. Shepard, said a voice from his past. We have a problem. Leo's expression hardened. What kind of problem? The kind that requires old skills. Can you talk? Leo looked at Emma, who was watching him with curious eyes. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. After he hung up, Emma asked, Is everything okay? I don't know yet, Leo replied. But Emma, you wanted to know who your father really is. You might be about to find out more than you bargained for. Chapter 8. Ghost from the Past. Leo called back his former teammate from the parking lot of Emma's apartment building. The voice that answered belonged to Carrie Graves, who'd been Task Force Reaper's communications specialist and Leo's closest friend during their operational years. Carrie, it's been a long time, Leo said. Not long enough, Shepard. Listen, we have a situation. 3 of our old team members are dead. Leo felt ice form in his stomach. Ow! Professional hits. Made it look like accidents, but I know the signatures. Someone's hunting us, Leo. Someone who knows our real identities. Who else is left? You, me, Dave Atkins, and Lance Sweeney. That's it out of the original 8-man team. Leo did the math quickly. Half their unit was dead, killed by someone who knew intimate details about classified operations that were supposed to be buried forever. Where are you now? Leo asked. Safe house in Montana. Dave and Lance are here with me. We need to meet, Leo. Whoever's doing this won't stop until we're all dead. Why now? It's been 15 years since the unit was disbanded. That's what we need to figure out. Can you get here? Leo looked up at the apartment building where his daughter was trying to rebuild her life with her new husband. It's complicated. I have family now. I know about the wedding, Carrie said. Saw the video online. Congratulations on finally taking the mask off. You saw that. Half the internet saw it. War hero reveals truth at daughter's wedding has been trending for 3 days, which might be why someone's targeting us now. The implications hit Leo like a sledgehammer. By revealing his true identity publicly, he might have exposed not just himself, but his entire former unit to whoever was hunting them. Shit, Leo muttered. Yeah, can you get here or not? Leo looked up at the apartment again, then made his decision. Give me the address. I'll be there tomorrow. Leo, come armed. And watch your back. Whoever this is, they're good. After hanging up, Leo sat in his car for a long moment, weighing his options. He could ignore Carrie's call, stay in Riverside, and hope that whoever was hunting his former teammates wouldn't find him. But that would mean living in hiding again, and he was done with hiding. More importantly, it would mean putting Emma and David in danger if the hunters did find him. Leo went back upstairs to find Emma and David waiting for him in the living room. They could tell from his expression that something serious was happening. I have to go away for a while, Leo said without preamble. How long? Emma asked. I don't know. Could be a few days, could be longer. David leaned forward. Sir, is this military business? Leo considered how much to tell them. Former military business. Some people I used to work with are in trouble. They need my help. What kind of trouble? Emma pressed. The kind where people end up dead. Emma and David exchanged glances. Dad, that sounds dangerous. It is dangerous, Leo admitted. Which is why I need you both to be very careful while I'm gone. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't trust strangers. If anything feels wrong, call me immediately. You think we might be in danger? David asked. I think I might have made us all targets when I revealed who I really was at the wedding, Leo said honestly. I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I need to find out for sure. Emma stood up suddenly. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Dad, I'm a military officer. I'm trained for this. You're trained for conventional military operations, Leo corrected. This is something else entirely. This is the kind of work that doesn't appear in any manual or training program. Then teach me, Emma said stubbornly. Leo looked at his daughter, really looked at her. 3 days ago, she'd been a spoiled young woman who thought her father was worthless. Now she was volunteering to walk into danger to help him. The transformation was remarkable. Emma, you're not ready for this. And I won't risk losing you after I just got you back. And I won't risk losing you after I just found out who you really are. Emma shot back. David cleared his throat. Sir, if I may suggest a compromise, what if Emma and I relocated temporarily while you handle this situation? Somewhere secure, out of the way, but where we could provide backup if needed. Leo considered this. It would get them out of immediate danger while keeping them close enough to help if things went badly. There's a safe house about 50 miles from where I need to go, he said finally. Military-grade security, completely off the grid. You could stay there while I deal with this. And if you need us? Emma asked. I'll call. Within hours, Leo had made arrangements for Emma and David to be transported to a secure facility in Montana while he drove separately to meet with his surviving teammates. As he packed his gear, weapons and equipment he hadn't touched in years, Leo felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with preparing for combat. The gate guard was gone forever. The man who emerged from that chrysalis was someone far more dangerous. Leo's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We know who you are now, Shepard. We know where you live. We know about your family. Come alone, or they die too. Leo stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Who is this? The response came immediately. Someone you should have killed when you had a chance. Leo's blood ran cold. The message could only mean one thing. Someone from his past operations had survived. Someone who'd spent years planning revenge against the team that had destroyed their organization. He quickly called Carrie back. Change of plans. I'm being hunted too. Someone just threatened my family. Jesus, Leo. Any idea who? Someone we left alive who shouldn't have been left alive. That's a long list. Yeah, but whoever it is, they just made a mistake. What mistake? Leo checked his weapons one final time, his voice dropping to the deadly calm tone that his enemies had learned to fear. They threatened my daughter. Chapter 9. The Shepherd's Return. The Montana safe house was a fortress disguised as a hunting lodge, built into the side of a mountain with sight lines for miles in every direction. Leo arrived after a 15-hour drive to find Carrie Graves, Dave Atkins, and Lance Sweeney waiting for him with enough weapons to equip a small army. Shepard, Carrie said, embracing his former commander. Good to see you, even under these circumstances. Leo looked around at his surviving teammates. They'd all changed in the 15 years since Task Force Reaper disbanded, but the essential core of each man remained. These were people he'd trusted with his life in the world's most dangerous places. Bring me up to speed, Leo said. Dave Atkins, their former explosives expert, pulled out a tablet showing surveillance footage. Marcus Webb, killed in a car accident in Denver 3 weeks ago. Brake lines cut, but the local police wrote it off as mechanical failure. Owen Compton, heart attack in his sleep in Chicago 2 weeks ago, Lance added. Except the coroner found microscopic puncture wounds consistent with poison injection. And Kirk Bruce, hiking accident in Colorado last week, Carrie finished. Fell off a cliff that he'd climbed dozens of times before. No witnesses, no explanation. Leo studied the photos of his dead teammates. Professional work. Whoever's doing this knows our capabilities and our weaknesses. There's more, Carrie said grimly. Each of them received the same message before they died. Same as the one you got about your family. Someone we should have killed when we had the chance, Leo repeated. Any ideas? Too many, Dave said. We took down a lot of organizations over the years. Could be anyone who survived and held a grudge. Leo's phone rang. Emma, Dad, we're secure at the location you sent us to. But David's been analyzing the threat message you received. He thinks he recognizes the phrasing. Put him on speaker. David's voice came through clearly. Sir, the phrase "when you had the chance" is specific military terminology. It suggests someone with formal training, possibly special operations background. That doesn't narrow it down much, Lance said. Actually, it does, Leo said slowly. How many operations did we conduct where we had targets we chose not to eliminate? The room went quiet as the four men thought back through their classified missions. The Bratva operation in Romania, Carrie said finally. We were ordered to extract the arms dealer, not kill him. In the cartel infiltration in Colombia, Dave added, we could have eliminated their leadership, but intelligence wanted them alive for interrogation. But the one that always bothered me, Lance said quietly, was Budapest. Leo's face hardened. Alejandro Thomas. The name hung in the air like a curse. Alejandro Thomas had been a rogue CIA operative selling classified information to the highest bidders. Task Force Reaper had been sent to eliminate him. But when they'd cornered Thomas in a Budapest safe house, they discovered he had hostages, 3 American aid workers. Leo had made the tactical decision to let Thomas escape rather than risk civilian casualties. It had been the right moral choice, but it had haunted him for years. Thomas had access to classified personnel files, Carrie said. He could have identified all of us. And he had the training to plan and execute assassinations, Dave added. Leo's phone buzzed with another text. Remember Budapest? Shepard? Remember the choice you made? Now you get to make another one. Come to the place where it all began, where your daughter learns what it feels like to fall from a great height. That's him, Leo said grimly. Thomas is in Budapest, and he has surveillance on Emma. How is that possible? Carrie asked. She's in a secure facility. Leo was already moving toward his gear. Because Thomas was CIA, he knows about our safe houses. He's been planning this for 15 years. So what's the play? Lance asked. You 3 stay here and coordinate with the security team protecting Emma and David. I'm going to Budapest. The hell you are, Carrie said. We go together or not at all. This is my family he's threatening. And we're your team, Dave said firmly. Task Force Reaper doesn't leave anyone behind. Leo looked at his 3 surviving teammates and felt a surge of gratitude that he hadn't experienced in years. These men were willing to walk back into hell with him, just like old times. All right, he said, but we do this right. No cowboy shit, no unnecessary risks. We go in fast, clean, and quiet. Thomas dies, and we all come home. Just like Budapest, Carrie said, except this time we finish the job. Just like Budapest, Leo agreed. Except this time I don't choose mercy. 12 hours later, Task Force Reaper was wheels up on a private jet bound for Hungary. Leo stared out the window as they crossed the Atlantic, thinking about the young CIA operative he'd spared 15 years ago and the monster that mercy had created. Some mistakes took decades to correct. But Leo Jensen, the real Leo Jensen, the shepherd, the man who'd earned a Congressional Medal of Honor in places that didn't officially exist, was finally going to set things right. The gate guard was dead. The ghost was returning to finish what he'd started. And this time, there would be no mercy for anyone who threatened his family. As the plane banked toward European airspace, Leo checked his weapons one final time and smiled. Alejandro Thomas thought he was hunting a man who'd grown soft in civilian life. He was about to discover that some predators never lost their edge. They just learned to hide it better. Epilogue. New beginnings. 6 months later, Leo Jensen stood in the kitchen of his new house, a modest 2-story home with excellent sight lines and multiple exit routes, chosen with the tactical awareness that would never fully leave him. The official report stated that Alejandro Thomas had died in a gas explosion at his Budapest safe house, along with 3 unidentified associates. There was no mention of Task Force Reaper. Emma knocked on the door and entered without waiting for permission, a habit she developed since Leo had returned from Europe. She wore civilian clothes now. She'd resigned her commission to take a position with a private security firm that specialized in protecting corporate executives with government contracts. "Morning, Dad," she said, kissing his cheek as she poured herself coffee. "David's running late. He had an early briefing at the base." "How's married life treating you?" Leo asked. "Better now that I'm not ashamed of my father," Emma replied with a smile. "David says he's learned more about real tactics from our weekend training sessions than he did in 4 years of officer training." Leo nodded approvingly. Over the past 6 months, he'd been teaching Emma and David skills that weren't covered in any military manual. They'd both proven to be excellent students. "Speaking of training," Emma said, Carrie called. "He wants to know if you're interested in that consulting contract." After Budapest, Leo's former teammates had started a private military consulting firm. They offered services to governments and corporations that needed problems solved quietly and efficiently. It was lucrative work, though not always legal. I'm considering it, Leo said, but only on a part-time basis. I want to be available for my family. Emma smiled. Your real family. My real family. The divorce for Monica had been finalized 3 months earlier. She'd taken nothing except her personal belongings and had disappeared into her new life in Phoenix. Leo had heard through mutual acquaintances that she was working at a small clinic and living alone in a studio apartment. He felt no satisfaction in her downfall, but he felt no sympathy either. Gordon Martinez had been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for bigamy, fraud, and identity theft. His actual wife had moved to another state with their children and changed their names. Leo never thought about Gordon at all. Dad, Emma said carefully, there's something I want to ask you. Ask. Do you ever regret it? Giving up your military career to try to be a normal father? Leo considered the question seriously. I regret the years we lost. I regret that it took a public humiliation for you to see who I really was. But I don't regret trying to give you a normal childhood. Even though it didn't work. It did work, Emma. You became a strong, intelligent, capable woman. The fact that you were ungrateful for a while doesn't diminish what you accomplished. Emma was quiet for a moment. I love you, Dad. The real you. I love you too. Leo's phone buzzed. A text from Carrie. New contract. High-value target in Eastern Europe. Interested, Leo looked at his daughter, who was reading the message over his shoulder. What do you think? He asked. I think, Emma said slowly, that the world needs people like you. People who can do the things that others can't or won't do, even if those things are illegal. Especially if they're illegal, Emma said firmly. Some problems can't be solved through official channels. Leo smiled and typed back to Carrie. Send me the details. As Emma headed out to meet David for lunch, Leo walked to his study and opened a secure filing cabinet. Inside were mementos from his years with Task Force Reaper, photos, commendations, and mission reports that officially didn't exist. But at the front of the collection was something new, a photo from Emma's second wedding reception. Not the elaborate country club disaster, but the small, intimate ceremony she and David had held after returning from Montana. In the photo, Emma was dancing with her father while David watched with obvious approval. She was smiling genuinely, proudly, as she introduced Leo to her military friends as my father, the war hero. It had taken 22 years, but Leo finally had the family he'd always wanted. A daughter who respected him, a son-in-law who understood him, and a future that held possibilities instead of regrets. The gate guard was gone forever. The shepherd had returned. And for the first time in decades, Leo Jensen was exactly who he was supposed to be. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.